I did have a question come in, a topic suggested by Jayadev. Um, and I think there were others too, but I think I lost track of things. But this just came in today, from Jayadev, a suggestion for our discussion. Can you share reflections on the process, need, and significance of formal initiation? Okay, well, this is quite a large topic. Um, it's quite a large topic. Because actually what we conceive of as formal initiation today is relatively new development, right? In the history of Vaishnavism, you could say. I mean, it's such a big topic. I don't know where to start, actually. Because we in the line of Srila Saraswati Thakur, right? Saraswati Thakur established that is Jayadev is with us. Yeah, Saraswati Thakur established this Harinam initiation, right? Giving of the Maha Mantra, right, as an initiation. But that's a new thing. The previously there would not have been an initiation for that. There was the Brahman initiation and Gayatri initiation. Those are the initiate. Of course, the Brahman initiation wouldn't take place amongst Vaishnavas, but there would be particular mantras that would be chanted, right? Like I was discussing this recently with Lalita Madhava, actually. It's been a relevant topic lately. Like I believe the Gopal mantra he mentioned, and another one that were principally chanted by the Vaishnavas. And these would be given, in a somewhat formal way, I suppose you could say, and chanted in a regulated way. But the Maha Mantra, that would not be that would not be given in such a way. The Maha Mantra would be something that would have been chanted in a free way. But Saraswati Thakur actually instituted this kind of like as a way to justify giving Brahman initiation to non-Brahmins, right? So we're kind of having a history lesson today. Because this was quite revolutionary, right? What Saraswati Thakur did, giving Brahman initiation to non-Brahmins. And actually that's not something that you need to do. The Vaishnavas are higher than Brahmins. So you don't need to give special Brahman initiation to Vaishnavas. It's not necessary. But Saraswati Thakur did that in order to show that Vaishnavas are not less than Brahmins. So to show that to the public, and also to encourage the Vaishnavas that they are not less than Brahmins. And also you could say to honor the Vedic culture, that, certain practices like deity worship, they require, Brahman initiation, generally speaking. So honoring that. So it was something that he did, like kind of like as part of his master plan, but not strictly necessary in the practice of Vaishnavism. So what was his what's the word? His chain of thought. It was following a point that had been made by Jiva Goswami. Roger's asking, Brahmins are like priests. Yes, I think you're probably familiar with the Varnashrama system of India, the social religious system of India. And the Brahmins, yes, they're like, so there's the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Shudras. And the Brahmins, they are like the priests, the spiritual scholars. They are the word Brahman. It's derived from Brahman, right? It's referring to the plane of spirit. So those who are concerned with the subtle side, that's the role of the Brahmins. And then the Kshatriyas, they are the rulers, they're the administrators, the caretakers, protectors of society. The Vaishyas, they're engaged with business, agriculture. And then the Shudras, they are serving the other varnas, the other groups, other persons. And the idea is that according to one's consciousness, according to one's material inclination, one will be situated accordingly. So if someone has and I was just discussing this with Sudevi actually just a few minutes ago. If someone has some tendency towards scholarship, the scripture, renunciation, then the idea is that would be expressed in this particular role, which is serving, which is making an offering, making a contribution to society. And so the Brahmins, they can advise others, right? And we were just discussing this in Italy a few days ago too. This point came up in our reading of Chaitanya Charitamrita, that the Brahmins, although the Brahmins, they wouldn't have much money, they'd be living very simple lives, and they'd generally be supported by others. So they're like in living humble, simple lives, but they would be in a position to give blessings and instruction to a king. Because the idea is that the gross should be led by the subtle. So the kings, they're dealing with wealth and opulence and power and money, but they will defer to the humble Brahmin. This would be the structure of society. And so the Brahmins, they're the priest class, right? And they have this role of leading the puja and the spiritual side of things, right? And of course, there's so much more to be said on that topic, but that would be a bit of a tangent. So we'll stick to the topic at hand. But we can go into that more if you would like later. But going back to the topic at hand, so Jiva Goswami, he stated this point, that someone who's not born as a Brahmin, because so normally, Brahmin boys, when they come of age, like they reach around 12 years old, then they will go through this initiation ceremony to receive the Brahmin thread, receive the Brahma Gayatri mantra, and so Jiva Goswami made this point that actually anyone can come to the standard of a Brahmin by chanting Harinam, because Harinam, the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, is so purifying that it will bring one to a more subtle level and bring one to the status of a Brahmin. And so he said that he made this point that through the chanting of the holy name, one can come to the position of a Brahmin boy. And then they may be eligible to receive the Brahmin initiation, even though they haven't been born into a Brahmin family. So Jiva Goswami made this point that the Brahmin initiation can be given to non-Brahmins because they have been purified by the chanting of the holy name. And Jiva Goswami mentioned, this can be done. And we're not doing it now simply because there hasn't been any precedent for that. But in the future, that may take place. Jiva Goswami made some comment like that in his writings. So then Saraswati Thakur kind of picked up that thread and used that as a justification for what he did. And so then, for that reason, he instituted giving Harinam as a formal initiation, giving the Maha Mantra as a formal initiation. And that's what we call nowadays first initiation. And then we call the giving of the Gayatri Mantra as second initiation. But this is a new thing, as I'm saying. Previously, there would have just been one initiation. And there's this famous I see Sue Devi has her hand raised. I'll get to you in a moment. And there's one verse which is often quoted by our gurus. It's included in one of Rupa Goswami's verse shloka collections, a glorification of the holy name. And it's akrishti krichachetasam sumanasam uchatanam chamhasam achandalam amuka lokasulabo vashyasha mukti shriya. Then this is the key point. No diksham nacha satkriyam nacha purushcharjam manag ikshate mancho yam rasana sprigeva falati Shri Krishna namatmaka. It's a glorification of the holy name. And it's saying that the holy name does not wait for anything. You know, it specifically mentions their diksha. The holy name does not wait for diksha even. You know, and here diksha is referring to the traditional initiation of receiving the particular Gayatri mantras. You know, so it's saying the holy name does not wait for diksha. And then it mentions these other things. Shat kriyam is referring to like purificatory practices, rituals that would be made by spiritual practitioners, and others, penances and various things. That the holy name does not wait for any formality. That's what's being said here. But when the name of Krishna wants to give himself to someone, he will give himself. He won't wait for any he won't wait for any what was the word I was looking for? He won't wait for any particular circumstance. But when he wants to give himself, he will give himself. This is the nature of the holy name. So then this kind of like throws everything up in the air, right? Like, so where do we stand? Like, what is like, so we're told that the holy name doesn't wait for Diksha. We're told that this whole Harinam initiation is a totally new thing that was just started in the last 100 years. So then where does that leave us? Like, what's the essential thing here? And what I would say is that we need to take shelter of Guru. This is what I would say. This is something that is indispensable. And that the name should ultimately come from a Vaishnava. Whether that is specifically the Maha Mantra name of Krishna, or whether that is the Gayatri, but the point is that Krishna does like to be given through his devotees. That point we can say that we can't get away from. And in the 64 practices of devotion, so I suppose what I'm saying is like the formality may change, right? And the way in which the name is given may change. But this point we cannot get away from. That's, wow, Brajavala's joining us. Wow, it's been a long time. Dandavad. Are you in Ukraine right now?
Dandavad. No, I'm not in Ukraine. I'm in Portugal.
Oh, really? I'm going to Portugal next week. Wow. Okay, I'll have to message you. I'll get in touch. Wow, look at that. And also Dana's joined us, Suvasini Didi's joined us, Ajita Krishna Prabhu's joined us. Great to see all of you, and very happy to see you, Brajabala. It's been a few years. So very, very happy. Maybe I'll see you next week. Let's see. So I was saying 64 practices of devotion, right, that are given actually by Mahaprabhu to Rupa Goswami, and they're mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and I believe they're published, and I've never been through Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu or the Nectar of Devotion, but I think they're there, right? Somebody here can say for sure. So these are significant for us. And the first one, our Gurudev has pointed out, is Guru Padashray, right? To take shelter of Guru. This is the first the first point that is mentioned, to take shelter of Guru. Going back to this point about formal initiation, then that also reminds me of how, in some cases, the initiation would be given in different ways. Like our Gurudev, Saraswati Thakur on one occasion gave by the telephone. And, our Gurudev, he gave once by telephone also. It was to Trivikramar's brother, actually, Manohar Prabhu in Brazil. And afterwards, our Gurudev, he mentioned to Trivikramarj, he said that the initiation actually depends on his faith, right? The formality is not required at all. But this is the point, that he's putting his faith in me, right? And I'm accepting him. This is the key point. So the formality is not the point. How and what way, with what mantra, all of that that's not the issue here, but that we're putting our faith in Guru, and Guru is accepting us, giving us taking us as under their care. This is the key point. But going back to the 64 practice of devotion, our Gurudev made this point that the first one is Guru Padashai, to take shelter of Guru. And then he also said, this is the first and the main, this is the principal one, and, if you're, his mood, I can't remember his exact words, but he said it was more or less like, if you're following this one, you don't have to worry about anything else, And there's one verse in, it's included in the Gaudiya Kantahara. Perhaps it's in Srimad Bhagavatam originally. And our Gurudev, he told this very funny story actually about this verse, because this is for those who don't know, this Gaudiya Kantahara, it's a verse collection. And it's kind of like it's kind of like a manual, It's not like, like an ecstatic, collection of heart expressions that you'll go through, but it's kind of like a manual, like laying out the Siddhanta, laying out the teachings in a very systematic way. And it goes through these different tattvas, these different truths and different expressions of the Lord, so there's what is there, like Krishna tattva, verses on the subject of who Krishna is, Guru, so many things. It's like a very systematic and clear kind of exposition of all these different aspects within the plane of this culture of faith. And so it's very useful as a reference, for preaching, for our own, developing our own understanding. And so our Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he gave a copy of this book to our Gurudev. And actually Acharya Maharaj told us that our Gurudev gave him a copy once, and he told him that if you learn this book, you'll be 80% a good preacher. So our Gurudev, he was so brilliant, he could very easily memorize so many verses. So he studied it very thoroughly. And then he would use the knowledge that he had learned, sometimes to debate with people. And many of the members of the Math, of the mission, they were envious of our Gurudev, because our Gurudev joined as a 17-year-old boy, and he immediately became the favorite of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And there were others who were senior to him, who'd been around for so long, and they really did not like that. So they gave him a hard time. There were many stories we heard about that. But there was this one senior devotee who used to always pick on our Gurudev, and he would point out anything he was doing slightly wrong. And so on one occasion he was giving our Gurudev a hard time, and, oh, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. And then our Gurudev, he quoted this verse. And so this is the point here, that what the verse says is that first one should conquer tamagun, the mode of ignorance, through rajagun, the mode of passion. Then one should conquer Rajagun, the mode of passion, with the mode of Sattvagun, the mode of goodness. And then finally, one should conquer the mode of goodness with the mode of Shuddha Sattva, pure goodness, divine goodness, transcendental goodness. And then it says, or you can just surrender to your guru and you'll get everything through that. So our Gurudev, he quoted that verse to this devotee, like saying, I don't need to worry too much. I'm just surrendering to my guru and I'll get everything through that, And then that devotee, he became very angry and he went to Srila Sridhar Maharaj and complained, oh, you've given this book to this boy and now look what's happened to him. He's so arrogant and so on, like that, So, but this is the point, right? That we are told, through surrender to Guru, we can get everything. And Dandavat Tungarasa. So this is the indispensable thing. And I'm also reminded of Bhakti Vinod Thakur's song on the glories of the holy name. It's the Shinam Mahatmya. It's the final song in the Sharanagati songbook. And welcome Somya Sham and Vijayananda Prabhus. Dandavat. And there he's describing in that song, that, how the holy name will make its manifestation within our heart and ultimately dance upon our tongue, But the first thing is that the name will be received through the ear, right? From the Vaishnava, that it will come from the Vaishnava. So then having said all of that, I mean, there's so much that can be said, right? See, the main point, or one of the main points, is that we need to begin to live a life of surrender, right? And we need to find some agent through whom we can express that mood of surrender to. And how will our surrender be tested and developed unless we have that connection, right? So we need that. But then it's a very tricky thing because, who that agent is may not be so clear, right? There are different types of gurus. There's Diksha Guru, there's Shiksha Guru. And ideally, our Diksha Guru, our initiating guru, and our instructing guru, Shiksha Guru, they're one and the same. That is the ideal thing, right? That makes things very simple and straightforward. But that may not always be possible. That may not always be the case. So this is the thing, to find that person and to whom we can give that type of faith to. That is not always so straightforward. And another thing is that, a huge component of Krishna consciousness is the spirit of aspiration, hankering, right? So it's also okay to not have that connection and to pray for that connection. Oh Lord, please show me that connection. Please show me that connection. There's one recording of Srila Sridhar Maharaj that I came across where a group of devotees from ISKCON, they were representing the situation of one. He was some famous American tennis star. I've told this story before. I'm sure many of you remember. But he had been very devoted. He'd been a devoted follower of Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, but he'd never taken the opportunity to take initiation. But he was like a serious follower. I believe he even had a murti of Srila Prabhupada in his home, a deity. He worshipped, he was chanting, but he never actually taken initiation. And then Srila Prabhupada left the world, and then there were these 12 or so initiating gurus, right? But he didn't feel like he could take from any of them. He felt his connection was with Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada. And so So this group of devotees, they were asking Srila Sridhar Maharaj, what's the appropriate thing for him to do? And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he gave a very broad, open answer. And he said simply, in the future, the compensation will come. That was more or less all that he said. So, whether he meant in this life or another life, that wasn't clear, So there's also room for that, for that genuine feeling of the heart that, oh, I don't feel that there's anyone who I can really, put my head, to their feet and surrender to them. Then, there's room for that. But to maintain that aspiration, oh, please let me find that, may Krishna reveal that person to me. It is said that by the grace of Krishna, we get Guru, and by the grace of Guru, we get Krishna. So, there's also space for that. And, it is, there's no one way, right? There's no one exact answer for everyone, because going back to this issue of Diksha and Shiksha gurus, we also see that there were practitioners who they take Diksha from one person, but they may feel more of a connection with another person, and they're or others, plural, and they're going on with their spiritual life. It may not be like like a clear-cut storyline, right? Like the disciple comes and surrenders to Guru and they live happily ever after. It may be like someone takes initiation from one person and then they're getting inspiration from so many others. But I look at them and I see, oh, they're living a vital, dynamic spiritual life. They have a connection. They have a connection to the line, to the current, to that Dhara. And, it's undeniable that there's something real that's churning there. So there is no right or wrong way. There's no one absolute way for everyone, but this, I would say that to take shelter of a guru in whatever form that may be, that is something indispensable. Or to aspire for that, to aspire for that connection if we don't find it in front of us at present. Sue Devi, you wanted to say something. Sorry, I went on quite a bit.
Beautiful, beautiful words. I was just wondering, what's the relationship with women and taking the Gayatri mantra, and when did that change? And I was also wondering about, because we don't do the yagya for women, no? And I'm just wondering a little bit of, I don't know, background story on that.
Right. I mean, this topic comes up sometimes, and one thing to remember is that the whole modern expression and distribution of Krishna consciousness, it's a work in progress. We're still working things out, and it's not very long ago that Saraswati Thakur, introduced the sannyas ashram into Mahaprabhu's line, that he made this revolutionary step of giving the Brahmin initiation to non-Brahmins, right? And I believe Saraswati Thakur, he only gave Harinam initiation to women. I don't think he gave second initiation, the Gayatris, at all to women. But then Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, Srila Govinda Maharaj, they did give the second initiation, the Gayatri initiation, to women. However, Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, he gave the Brahma Gayatri, which is the traditional Gayatri given for Brahmin initiation. Srila Swami Maharaj gave that to women, but Srila Sridhar Maharaj and Srila Govinda Maharaj didn't give that. However, Srila Govinda Maharaj did clearly allow women to carry out all the Brahminical services. So, that shows he didn't consider it to be so important. And the fire sacrifice is connected with the giving of the Brahmin thread. So that's why, because they didn't give the Brahma Gayatri, the Brahmin, what is traditionally chanted by Brahmins and given at their initiation, because they didn't give that to women, then the fire sacrifice is not necessary, because the fire sacrifice is connected with the giving of the Brahma Gayatri and the Brahmin thread. But again, our Gurudev, obviously did not consider it to be so crucial, because he did allow women to perform all the Brahminical services. And ultimately oh, that's right, Jayadev, you mentioned that before, that the Brahma Gayatri is a Purusha mantra. Yeah, that's interesting. I remember you reminded me, you mentioned that before. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's so much more that, no, you did some time ago, I'm pretty sure, in some casual conversation, you mentioned it to me, I think so.
Okay, I never even thought about that, really, but it must have come up without me. I mean, I know I thought about it because I had heard it once before, but I don't feel like I've thought about it since I heard it. I think it was, forgot who it was. It was someone I trusted in, though, and they were saying that it's a Purusha mantra and it's not healthy for women to use these very male mantras. Like, it's not good for them. It's more of a predominantly male mantra. So it's not that they're not worthy or that they're not, it's that it's actually not the right medicine for the body type.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, there must be so much more that can be said about that. But Radhana Rupini is raising her hand.
I think it has to do with the first line of the Gayatri mantra. It's a very male, and it's a very strong. I mean, I was given the Gayatri mantra, and I just follow what my spiritual master says, but everybody's different a little bit, I know that there's some other initiating gurus that will take the first line out and give it to women. It has to do with the sun. Worship of the sun.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, Sudevi, the whole presentation of Krishna consciousness, it's, especially in this age, it's an innovation. I mean, really, Krishna consciousness, I was thinking about this the other day. Krishna consciousness it's a current. It's a divine current of reality. I actually was writing this out. I can read to you what I wrote. Krishna consciousness is a dynamic living current of truth, which at different times may be presented and distributed in different ways according to time, place, and circumstance. And there was something else that I had here in my notes. Okay. Krishna consciousness in its highest expression represents a current of divine love towards reality, the beautiful. In the same way that there is no formula for arousing love in someone, there is no right or wrong way to arouse Krishna consciousness. Indeed, whatever method works is ultimately recommended. and then I've quoted this line. This is included in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Yena tena prakarena manasa Krishna nishevayat. Means, by whatever means possible, attach your mind to Krishna. Srila Swami Maharaj translates this verse as, by hook or by crook, attach your mind to Krishna. So there is no, one particular formula, and in different circumstances at different times, our gurus are adopting different means, according to what they feel is appropriate at that time to awaken Krishna consciousness, right? So, one of the Gayatri mantras that we chant was, invented by Saraswati Thakur. it's not like he presents it like as an ancient Vedic mantra, but he actually wrote it himself. You know? I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, you know, in a public video, but that's the truth, you know.
Well, if he wrote it, then you mean he uncovered it, because whatever he's done is pretty much eternal in a way.
Right.
Because he's in that, he found it.
Right. That's also true. Right? So the Gayatri mantra that we chant for Mahaprabhu, for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you know? So, you know, like what is right or wrong, you know, like what's coming from the heart of a Vaishnava, that's ultimately right, you know. Mahajano yena kata sa panta, you know, whatever dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam mahajano yena kata sa panta, right? Real religion is hidden in the heart of the Vaishnava. And so whatever path they advocate, you know, that's dharma, that's the way forward, that's what we do. You know, so to follow what our gurus have laid out for us, to follow the like the practices in and of themselves actually won't get us anywhere, but it's the mood of surrender, you know, with which we are following them, you know, in adherence to Guru, Gauranga, Radha, Krishna, our adherence to their divine will, right? Srila Swami Maharaj has that wonderful expression, to follow the order of the Guru is the activating principle in spiritual life, you know, whatever that may be, you know. There's one line of Srila Sri Maharaj where he says to clean the stool of a Vaishnava may fetch more value than doing puja of the deity. Pretty radical. Why? Because that's something more immediate, pressing service, you know, and directly to the Vaishnava, who's the living manifestation of the Lord. You know, that may be more meaningful than to worship of the deity, right? It's something living. So, you know, somebody may say, oh, we ladies, we're getting less, you know, we didn't get what the men got, and we're going to start a petition, and we're going to circulate it on change.org and all these things, you know. These things go on, you know. So, you know, whatever comes to us, you know, from the higher level, that is our Krishna consciousness, you know, our expression of adherence to that higher will. That's what's living in our spiritual life. So whatever that may be, you know, our Krishna consciousness may be doing all kinds of things, you know, but it's coming from the higher level, you know. Srila Sridhar Maharaj, she also says in one place, like to go and beat someone, you know, or to serve in the temple, they may be the same, right? In protection of the devotees and protection of the temple, we may have to go and beat somebody, right? You know, and that may be higher than serving the deity or whatever, you know. So our Krishna consciousness, it is to satisfy the heart of the Vaishnava. Welcome, Ananda Krishna Prabhu. And that looks like Ganga. Dandavat. Nice to see you, Ganga. And Sudev, you wanted to say something else?
I was thinking about the question that I asked. I think for me, I feel a little bit of
Oh, and by the way, I wasn't referring to you when I said the feeling last. I'm just saying I do hear that. I know that wasn't coming. You were just asking for clarification, but some people, they do speak like that, and there are petitions that go around on Facebook. I'm not like exaggerating. Like literally, I got one a few days ago.
Yeah. No, I just, because for my particular experience, like before I came to meet the devotees, like I was you know, studying a lot in the yoga, in Shivananda yoga line. And so I was chanting Gayatri every single day, and I was chanting many mantras every
You're
single day.
talking about the Brahma Gayatri.
Yeah, and I was working with the fire, like I was offering respect to Ganesha through yagya and to Shiva through yagya. And it wasn't in the mood of trying to attain anything through these practices, but it was in the mood of respecting the divine teachings that I was being given, you know, at that time in that place, before I'd come into contact with the devotees and before I knew of Krishna consciousness. And so my mood was, wow, this is beautiful because it's an expression of truth, and it's being shared with the world. And so for me, doing practices of in the fire ceremony was a practice of respect and a practice of honor, and being able to, I don't know. And so I guess I feel like I miss chanting the Gayatri so much. Like it felt really close to my heart because I would do it every single day. And now I can't. And I also love working with the fire and love giving respect in that way. And now I can't. And so, yeah, it's my experience at the moment.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You know, there is actually, I mean, now you brought up the subject, you know, there is actually some history of women in very ancient Vedic times, of women performing yagya. And I believe, you know, I'm now recalling now because actually Lalita Madhava was sharing one paper with me, that some research paper done by ISKCON and on the subject of the Brahma Gayatri. And I believe that there is some precedent of women chanting it, and also doing puja, and it's mentioned in different places. I believe even in the Ramayana it is mentioned. I cannot remember the details. I have the paper that I can share with you. I mean, if you feel some attachment to that, then I don't think there's anything wrong with you doing it, you know. But see, the main point is that what's really going to nourish our, and you know, and also, you know, if you feel attraction to yagya, I don't see anything wrong. I mean, you know, as I said, like we didn't receive the Brahma Gayatri mantra, but our Gurudev did consider us qualified to perform all the Brahminical activities. So if you feel inspired to, you know, learn how do we do yagya in the line of Saraswati Thakur, you know, then I would say go for it. And you have, you know, Sadhu Priya, you know, someone who you're friendly with. He's one of the most expert in our mission. And I would say go for it. But when it goes to, in terms of like regularly chanting the Brahma Gayatri and those things, I also think there's nothing wrong with, if you want to do that, do it. But the main point is that what's really going to be fruitful for our progressive life is to, yeah, I see your comment. Yeah, yes, I understand. Yeah. But the main point is that, like, what comes to us from the Vaishnava, that's what's potent, right? So whatever mantra we receive from the heart of a Vaishnava in that line of transmission, that's what's going to be potent for us, you know. That Srila Sridhar Maharaj, she quotes this line, Vaikuntha Nama Grahanam, you know, that the holy name must have its origin in Vaikuntha, in the spiritual plane, right? And I believe it's in Shri Guru and His Grace, he uses this analogy of homeopathic globules, right? The little sugar globules, and they all look the same, right? But actually the effects that each of them will produce will be maybe vastly different, but they all look exactly the same. So in the same way, you know, a mantra may be chanted by so many persons, but depending on the source, where it's coming from, then there will be a different effect, you know. So if you feel that inspiration to chant the Brahma Gayatri, I would say no problem, you know. But yeah, I mean, you know, like when I was in Thailand, you know, they would blare it out on loudspeakers, and I remember hearing some kind of like, you know, trendy kind of, you know, song, like a pop song, and using the Brahma Gayatri, you know. So like, many people are chanting it, and I know in the yoga world it's chanted a lot too. And if you feel that attachment, I don't think there's anything wrong. But I would do it separately from the mantras that you received from your guru, and just have that awareness, right? That what specifically what you've received in that line of transmission and that channel of revelation. That's what's potent. So I think that's all I have to say. How does that strike you?
Good. Beautiful. Thank you for your words.
But yeah, I mean, if you feel interested in fire yagya, I think that's awesome. And I would talk to Sadhu Priya about that. I think that would be cool. We don't have many people in general, amongst the men's section either. We have very few who actually have proper training in that. And, for the future, we have to think about that. Like, who is going to be qualified and all this stuff in the future? We have like probably less than half a dozen people in our mission who actually have proper understanding of that. So
I did that a lot when I was in the yoga land. Like, I was doing like three yagyas a week, I think, 4 even maybe. I had a lot of practice in that.
Cool. And let's see, we do have some comments in the chat, and I also saw Ramananda Prabhu had his hand raised. Who is the iPhone? Oh, Radhana Rupini. Oh, I mean, that's once a month. That's not every day of the month. Also, our Gurudev actually had his own revolutionary adjustment on that point, that he said women who are celibate or virgins, they don't have to have any restriction during their cycle. That was something Srila Govinda Maharaj told, which I think is something somewhat revolutionary. So Peter Borwash, okay, so that was the guy. Interesting. Let's see. Okay. Ramananda Prabhu, did you want to say something? You had your hand raised. Okay, maybe not. Anyone else have any comments on that subject? Or we still have a few minutes left for the end of our meeting.
Thank you for the reflections. I really appreciate it.
I wanted to go back.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah, I meant to go back to you and check in with you. How you felt about that whole discussion. Jayadev. Jayadev, you want to share any reflections on what was discussed? Have we lost Jayadev now? Maybe he dropped out. And I have had another question come in through a private message, although I don't know why it's a private message. Maybe an accident. How to develop taste for the holy names? This is the question, right? Well, first of all, there's the realization that we don't have taste, so that's a good starting point. Right, and this is in the development in the Shikshashtakam. This is expressed in the second verse, right? The first verse we hear how glorious the holy name is and all that can be attained through the chanting of the holy name. And then in the second verse, there's the realization, oh, well, hang on. I don't have any taste. No, what do I do, you know? And Rasaraj Prabhu also brought this point very nicely. Maybe it was last week. You know, it's very healthy to have that realization, first of all, right? Sorry, can we just need to, you could mute. Sorry, Jayad. Okay, Jayad, thank you. So then how do we develop taste? You know, how do we develop taste? There's so many things to be said. But the third verse, what is the third verse? Verse is giving the main formula, this Trinada Pisu Nichena, Tadoriva Sahishnuna, Amanina Manadin, Kirtaniya, Sadahadi. You know, humility, tolerance, and respect. And Srila Sridhar Maharshi says in one place that following this mood, it will increase the name-catching tendency within us, something like that. It will increase the name-catching tendency. Our ability to hold the name, to receive the name will increase, you know, with that, with the following of those principles. And our Gurudev also pointed out that, you know, all of the offenses, so really, what is the main problem? That our hearts are hard, right? Our hearts are hard by mundane conception, by mundane attachment, mundane identification. And so our Gurudev, he kind of summed this up, saying all of the offenses to the holy name, their root is an ego, right? Or within the false ego. So the more that we can follow this principle, these principles of humility, tolerance, and respect, you know. But that, you know, as was being pointed out recently, that must be a real thing, you know, real humility, real tolerance, real respect. You know, being humble doesn't just mean making some posture of humility, but ultimately real humility means surrendering to the Vaishnava. Right? That is humility. That I'm giving myself to you in thought, word, and deed. You know, recently I had this. Okay, Sue Devi, I see your comment. Okay. You know, recently I was reflecting on this point that, you know, sometimes in our expression of humility to a higher truth, we may have to apparently be a little aggressive or annoying, you know, in this plane, you know. I was trying to round up a Sankirtan party to go out, you know, and normally I don't like to do that. Like normally I like to have somebody else, like be that annoying person who's like calling everybody up and getting everyone out, you know. But I've thought to myself, like, you know what? I don't care if you all like are annoyed by me. I don't care if you all think I'm being arrogant, you know, like let it be, you know. And then I was reminded of it was actually one of the final expressions of Saraswati Thakur. There's this well-known talk, like public talk that he gave not long. It was like the last public talk he gave, statement that he gave before he left the world. And one of the things that he says in there is, I have disturbed you all in so many ways. I've disturbed all of you so much. Or like here, Kanupriya, every weekend she has a ritual. She calls up all the devotees, you know, like, are you going to come to the program? So sometimes we have to disturb people, you know? You know, get up off your couch and like, let's do some Harinam Sankirtan together. I'm going to annoy you. You know? I'm going to be on your back. Like, I'm sorry. You know, so that's an expression of humility. Not like, I'm sorry, please do whatever you want, do whatever you want. Like, That's a mundane conception of humility. But as Srila Sridhar Maharaj says in one place, that I am humble means that I am the servant of a Vaishnava. This is humility. This is humility. And he says, when Hanuman sets fire to the city of Lanka, right? Because this evil King Ravan has kidnapped the princess Sita, and Hanuman's like asserting, Ramachandra's supreme position and setting fire to Ravan's capital. And so Srila Sridhar Maharaj says, Ravan's, okay, Dana, thank you for joining. Have a beautiful day. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj says, Hanuman's humility is not disturbed. When he's setting fire to Lanka, apparently an act of aggression, but in service to the higher plane. Srila Saraswati Thakur says kirtan means a fight, right? Because what is the status quo? What is the mainstream flow? Materialism, exploitation, selfishness. So when we're coming with the spirit of dedication, when we're coming to promote, Krishna Nam, Hari Nam, then that's creating a conflict. You're going against the flow. In order to assert truth, we have to create some conflict, some opposition. We are opposing the status quo when we are asserting Krishna consciousness. Right? So that is actually humility. Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he also, and I believe he was actually quoting Srila Saraswati Thakur, made this he describes the spirit of enjoyment as a type of aggression. And he described humility as that which is, he said it in a very particular way, but it boiled down to this, that the spirit of enjoyment is a lack of humility, actually, because the spirit of enjoyment is actually an act of aggression upon the environment. Where with our senses, we're like colonizing the environment, for our own purpose. That's an act of aggression. So humility can be understood in so many different ways. But the main thing is, to get taste for the name. We are serving those who have that taste. That is the main thing. Srila Gurudev, he made this very beautiful expression once, that he said, actually, I cannot chant the name, but my guru is chanting the name, and I'm serving my guru. That was his vision. My guru is chanting the name, and I'm serving my guru. That's my line. So to serve those who name ruchi, right? To have taste for the name, ruchi for the name. We want to serve those who have that. And if we can have the opportunity to serve those who have that, isn't that more than enough for us? And if they are pleased with us one day, they may pass a little bit of that on to us. Give us some touch of that. So, the first thing is we have to realize how high that is and how far away we are from that at present. Anyone else want to add any thoughts to that? Chinmoy Prabhu, you want to
One time, Srila Govinda Maharaj told me that humility is sometimes not appropriate.
Well, that's what we're saying. That what is real humility? Real humility is to our guru, to the Vaishnava. So that may apparently be non-humble within the relative plane, right?
Right.
That's the idea, that we will not be humble to the person who's, you know, coming to attack the devotees, but we are being humble to Guru and Vaishnava by opposing that person. So Vasini Didi, thank you so much for joining. Dandavat. And Chinmoy Prabhu, he brought up a nice point here. The name will help us. Yes, our Gurudev made that point in a very beautiful way. You know, remember, the name is a person. The name is non-different from Krishna. Binatvan namanamino. The name is non-different from the named. And so when we are calling upon the name, we cannot call upon the name, actually, but the name is seeing that we're trying. The name will see that we are sincerely trying, and the name is a person. The name will have mercy upon us, and the name will help us. Our Gurudev also made that point. Because, you know, actually it was, this is in a recording I heard with Janardhan Maharaj. Janardhan Maharaj was asking this question that, you know, we're told that we cannot chant the name, right? But we're also told that we can only chant by the grace of the name. But if we're not able to chant that name, then how will we get the grace of that name? We're not eligible to chant. So our Gurudev, he answered like this, you know, that yes, we cannot chant the pure name, but the name will be merciful upon us, seeing our sincere attempt to chant. Okay, Marie, thank you for joining. So that is another very nice point. Well, we could end here. Any last comments from anyone before we close for today?
I just want to say I'm very, very happy that, you know, you guys are all here today, and all those that might have left. You know, I'm very thankful that we have this space to communicate, and, you know, we're on the right path. We're on the right path, and that's something to celebrate. You know, I'm very happy. So my dandavats to everyone. Love you all.
Jai Dandavadananda, beautiful. And I think Chinmoy Prabhu might be tied up because he's tuning in from the library today due to the floods and such in California right now. So I guess we'll close there for today. Thank you all so much for your association, for engaging me in some service. And forgive me, I cannot, you know, I'm what I've heard, I'm sharing, you know. Actually, all of these questions are very good questions. And I'm just giving something, you know, but no doubt there's so much more that could be said. You know, but we're sharing what we've heard from our gurus, and we hope it may be helpful in some way.
That's no small thing, that's for sure.
Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Deva Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. All the assembled devotees, sincere seekers. Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai.
Jai.
Thank you for your association. Thank you for your association.
Thank you.
Vishakha Devi Dasi ki Jai.
Jai.